My name is Tyler Samuel Lee. I am 6.5, and my birthday is November 10th, 19. This episode is about Dexter that doesn't know that his new neighbor is Computress with his brother Mandark.
Welcome to Gimmicks, a podcast about the high-concept, experimental, structure-breaking gimmick episodes of TV, from musicals to bottle episodes to an episode written and recorded by a young fan of the show. I'm David Arnold.
You are stupid, and I'm Derek B. Gale. And who is our special guest on the line?
My name is Tyler Lee, and you're stupid!
Wow,
Yes!
Tyler, still in the bag. That is
Iconic.
iconic. Just incredible. Well, if you didn't get that reference, we're going to tell you all about it, because this episode we're talking about Dexter and Computress get Mandark from Dexter's Laboratory.
Yes, real quick, if you're not familiar with Dexter's Laboratory, or Dexter's Laboratory as he says it, it is an award-winning animated comedy airing on Cartoon Network from 1996 to 1998 in its original run, then revived due to its popularity from 2001 to 2003. Follows Dexter, a boy genius inventor with a secret gigantic laboratory in his bedroom, his sister Dee Dee, who constantly destroys his lab, and his rival Mandark, who also has his own secret laboratory. It was created by Genndy Tartakovsky, who became one of the youngest animation directors of that era at age 27, and he would go on to create many renowned shows, a lot of action shows like Samurai Jack, Star Wars Clone Wars, Primal, a lot of some of the best animation that's ever happened in the history of animation. And though Dexter, briefly aired on TNT and TBS first, it pretty quickly became a flagship show for Cartoon Network's branded original content known as Cartoon Cartoons, basically being the show that launched that very significant slate in the late 90s and early 2000s. Very influential show.
So Tyler, this is the point of the show in which we normally ask each and every one of the people on the call, what's your experience with this? But you have such a unique experience with the show, so why don't we let you get started? What is your experience with Dexter's Lab?
So, when I was 6, or I get 6.5, according to the recording, I was watching the Mach 5 episode of Dexter's Lab. That was their Speed
Nice.
Racer spoof, and I was sitting I was watching with my mom, and I said, "Hey, I wanna do this," and my mother said, "Yeah, so do it, and she gave me a little handheld cassette recorder, and I took it and I ran into the bathroom, and I sat there for like, I think 20 to 30 minutes, and I just stream of consciousness, 6-year-old spoke into it for 30 minutes. And unbeknownst to me, my mother took the cassette tape, mailed it into Cartoon Network, along with a crayon drawing that I did of the scene that I was describing. And 6 months later, they sent us a letter, and they said, "Hey, we listened to your tape. We couldn't stop laughing. We want to air it, and then we want to animate around your voice using the style of the drawing that you sent."
Yeah.
And so they 6 months after that, we were all sitting around my television, the whole family, and we watched the episode, and it was surreal.
Wow. A whole year really had passed from when you recorded it to when it aired.
Yeah.
Incredible. What a absolutely, you said surreal, and surreal is just the name of the game for this whole thing. But
Yeah.
truly what a surreal experience. I don't know, like when you're like a, I guess, 7-year-old at the point that you're watching it, like, does it even register with you, like, how cool that is, like the magnitude of like millions of people are watching basically something that I created on television right now?
Yeah. I think I think my brain was too smooth back then. Like I didn't
That's fair.
I didn't quite
Yeah.
understand what was going on, but I knew it was really cool because I was like, oh hey, that's my voice. That's a tiny cartoon version of me, in crayon, and at school, the principal made an announcement on the loudspeaker, and he said,
course.
it's like, oh, welcome to, elementary school, blah 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 blah. Also, congratulations, Tyler Lee, and everyone was like, what? And
So wait, because I did read about this that they like had a airing at school and like your friends would like come up to you and ask you for autographs, but you had kept this quiet that like this was the first they were hearing about it.
so
That is
yeah.
remarkable restraint. Like I studied children, and that's like children don't do that. Like what restraint has made you into the man that you are today? Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to stay pretty quiet about it, I think, for most of my life, up until recently when I found the Instagram. So I didn't have an Instagram. I didn't have any social media.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Because thank you, thanks. Well, I mean, it was during the pandemic. It just gave me a lot of anxiety because there was a lot of stuff going on. But I guess a couple of months ago, somebody made that post on Instagram that said, "Oh, hey, remember when the 6-year-old blah 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 blah," and all of my friends started to send it to me,
Mhm.
and one of my friends said, "Yeah, so a bunch of people in the comments are saying that you're dead," and
What?
yeah,
You
yeah.
were killed? No.
Yeah, a lot of people said, "Oh yeah, I heard that kid died," and so
I feel like, is that just what happens with like every time there's something that like a child goes remotely viral for? I feel like it's always the rumor people go to. Like if they don't become a star as an adult or like, milk it all the time, people just assume, well, they must have died because
Yeah.
why would you just like live a regular private life after this?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So and my sister had made a comment and said, "No, he's my brother. He's definitely alive." And a bunch of comments were like, "Stop lying!" And so I decided, okay, it's time to make an Instagram. And I said, "Hey, this is my episode. I'm not dead." And I posted a couple of videos. There was it was cool because Gendy drew me a hand painted cell. And signed it, and was like, "Tyler, thanks for making an episode," and it was amazing. That whole experience actually was so cool.
Yeah, because not for like the episode or anything, but you eventually went out to the studio, right?
Yeah, yeah. So they flew me out to California, and to meet this whole studio. We went on this big tour. It was me and my mother and my sister, and we when we were going to California, we got a call from the Tonight Show, and they said, "We want you to be a guest." And so,
Wow.
yeah, it was so strict because I'd never, my mother was kind of like briefing me on the Tonight Show, like what that was and what was going on there, on the way. And so it ended up being me, Howie Mandel, and Dennis Rodman on a couch.
What a collection of people.
Wow.
Yeah,
Also
so
very,
strange.
very of the time too. Like that's such a time capsule.
I
Very
met
of the
Hulk
time.
Hogan in the lobby.
Wow. I think what's great is that everyone you interacted with set such a low bar for you to exceed, to be a potential great part of society. Like truly and honestly, love that for you. Because this was Leno's Tonight Show, right? We're talking.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. This
Yeah,
was Leno.
yeah.
Incredible.
Wow. So okay, obviously you got the idea where you're watching the Mach 5 episode, but you had already been in with Dexter's Lab, right? Like this was not this was not your first watch and then you came up with these characters.
Oh,
do you remember when you started watching it, or has it like always been there?
I mean, I think, let's see. So it was 96 when I had done it. I mean, I think I've been watching it since it's one of my oldest shows. It was my favorite show. I guess it still is. But yeah, it was my favorite show growing up. I watched, every episode as it was coming out. I knew the difference between like era 1 and era 2, like the different theme songs and the different openings. Like I was like a fanboy before I knew I was a fanboy.
Right.
And then I loved it so much I made my own fanfic about it, I guess.
Yeah. Did you mess around with any of the other cartoons from the era? Do you remember being like a Powerpuffs girly or anything else that was airing on Cartoon Network?
The whole time slot, Cow and Chicken was like, oh my God, incredible. Like Johnny Bravo. I mean, everything, all of it. Ed, Ed and Eddie, when that was out, my God, what a masterpiece.
Yep.
So good. So good. There's actually about 20 minutes because they only use 10 minutes of the tape, but there's about 20 minutes of additional like weird ideas that I just kind of pitched with no substance. It was just like, oh, and then what if there was like a Justice Friends with like blah 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 blah. And like, oh, what about a monkey episode with like blah 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 blah? And it was nonsense. So I think they
Yeah.
just took the only coherent idea and just
Sure.
said, okay, well, we'll do this.
Yeah, but you got to air with a Justice Friends segment, so that must have
That's
been fun
true.
for you as a kid. Because you said on your AMA that you like love the Justice Friends, right? Like that's you loved them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was yeah, I actually liked Justice for I think that was my favorite segment. I mean obviously,
Sure.
Dexter was amazing, but Major Glory, there was some episode where there's like crossover. There are a few crossover episodes
Yeah.
between Dexter and the Justice Friends, and I was like, these are my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was incredible.
All right, Derek. So how much of this resonates with your experience with Dexter's Lab? Were you also always this was always part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the story is for me is the same, except I never got an episode made that I wrote. Really, is the only difference. Yeah, I mean, I think for a long time, it it would fluctuate between being my number one favorite show or among my favorite shows. Especially when it came to like comedy. I was not much of like a Nickelodeon kid. I was very, very much a Cartoon Network kid, and I watched the hell out of all the cartoons. But Dexter always was the one for me that really stood up. Is just it resonated with me the most, and I think part of it was because it was so clearly so imaginative. I think like Gendy being like this young experimental artist, I think really comes through and like makes sense when you learn that afterwards, because so much of the show is so high concept and it's just dealing with like weird, interesting, fun ideas. Like you could do a gimmick episode on like so many episodes of Dexter, like what if there's just an episode where Dexter goes to buy a light bulb and there's no dialogue whatsoever, like wild ideas like that throughout it. And they reran it all the time on Cartoon Network. So like it was the kind of show where every time it was on, I would watch it, and I had some of these episodes memorized. I'll go years without watching them and then, get the DVD and then put it in, and I'm sort of like, still know every single beat of this episode. Hadn't thought about it in a while, but when I watch it, it all comes flooding right on back. Wasn't as big of a fan as the sort of revival, retooled era that was without Gendy as much, but it still watched all of it anyway, because why wouldn't I? But yeah, no, I think it was a huge influence on me, and I feel like it feels very similar, I think, to like how The Simpsons might resonate with you as a kid, because there's a lot of really smart humor that references like old movies and old media and like vaudeville comedy that you might not get as a kid, but you can sort of pick up on the rhythms of, and maybe even like teach you what those references are, so then you can figure out what they are after the fact. That I think that also resonated with me a lot.
Yeah. It's funny going back to this as an adult, because I was not maybe as big of a fan. I think the small age difference between me and y'all just put this a little bit out of reach, because I was 13, 14 when this was airing on Cartoon Network, and so it was too cool. I was watching Johnny Bravo though, so not that cool. Let's be real queer. Let's be real queer. I was gay, so I was watching Johnny Bravo. Hello. But I do say I watched a few episodes in preparation for this conversation, just to like remind myself. And you're right, Derek. This is like just a wildly high concept show at every turn. It's kind of like when we were talking about Rugrats, and like I appreciated this when it was on, but there's so much more to digest and appreciate now that I'm an adult. I also think that the episodes I caught, I remember being very annoyed at Dee Dee, because that's what the show told me to do, and my brain wasn't quite developed enough to understand that she is the queen on high and statues should be erected in Dee Dee's honor. I'm kind of bummed that there's not a lot of Dee Dee for us to talk about, except for a very dark joke that you made at 6 years of age.
Yeah.
But like Dee Dee is incredible. I love her. I'm just obsessed.
Yeah.
But the Cartoon Network was a big part of my childhood. I remember when it started, and we got cable so that we could have the Cartoon Network. I remember all the ads about it coming out, and then it was just like Hanna-Barbera slop that was just coming at me 100 miles per hour, 24 hours a day. So I was there when Dexter started. I just wasn't as bought in.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that makes sense.
You do not have to be a genius like me to figure out that my new show, Dexter's Laboratory, is brilliant. Yes, I know, with my sister Dee Dee around. Things sometimes do not go as planned, but Every great scientist must overcome obstacles. Mine just happens to be an oversized theater. Watch my new series, Dexter's Laboratory, every Sunday at 3:30 on Cartoon Network. What does this button do? Oh, nothing.
Deep in his secret laboratory, Dexter is creating something the world has never seen before. His new invention's at DQ, and you can collect all 6. Conduct your own experiment and discover your favorite. Dexter's Sparkler Machine, Dexter's Wrist Crane, or Dexter's Multi-Purpose Robot Suit. Pick any one with a DQ Kids Meal or 99 cents with the purchase of a Blizzard. Only at DQ. Watch Dexter's Laboratory on the Cartoon Network.
Well, then let's talk a little bit more about this episode in particular. We are talking about what might be considered season 2, episode 37, or if you're looking at your DVDs, season 4, episode 5, Dexter and Computress Get Mandark, which was the first segment of the episode, along with the Justice Friends Pain in the Mouth, a great little segment, and Dexter versus Santa's Claus. And of course, being bundled with a Christmas episode, as you would expect, the original air date on this one was April 29th, 1998.
Makes perfect sense. Sure. Okay.
Devastated that the IMDb only lists the third segment on this one. Travesty IMDb. So the synopsis per the Dexter's Lab wiki: Computress, Mandark's brother, ditches Mandark and his laboratory after watching him wreck it one too many times. He then teams up with Dexter to get revenge.
I like that synopsis makes it sound like it's just going to be like a normal episode where it's just, now there's just a brother you didn't know about.
Yeah.
Doesn't mention anything else about that.
This is where we go over the history of the writer, Tyler. So written and narrated by Tyler Samuel Lee. Incredible. So we talked a little bit about how this came to be. We're going to talk a little bit more about it in just a bit when we talk about the making of the episode. But this was not like the end of you in show business, right?
No. I so after that I had a decent child acting career. I think I got an agent and a manager and all the things that you do. Because and I'll preface it with my mother and my father. I very, very lucky to have a very supportive family throughout all of this. The whole family incredibly supportive. But my mother said, "We stop when you want to stop."
Oh,
and she said, this is. Whenever you want to just be a kid again, say the word and we will stop all of this. And I said, okay, great. And so, I went on auditions. So I'm from Long Island, New York. And we would go into Manhattan like every day after school.
Oh my God.
And on weekends. And I just, the sacrifices that this woman has made in my life is astronomical. And so we would go in just about every day for auditions. And just for readings, and we'd get scripts, and I would read them at home and read them on the train, and we'd kind of bounce lines off of each other, and then we'd go in. I did some voiceover commercial work. It was basically all voice acting, but then I got some work for Out of the Box on Disney. I did 4 episodes, filmed in Queens, which was fine,
Nice.
not too far. And I got pulled from school where we had an in-house teacher that would be half the day we would be in school, half the day would be shooting. And then we'd go into Manhattan to record the songs, this guy's sound studio. We'd go into, this other place for this other thing, and a whole bunch of other things. And that's when I decided to stop. I wasn't aware of how show business worked or anything like that. So I didn't know the meaning of the word continuity. And so I would be we'd cut, and I'd be sitting at the table, the arts and crafts table, and I'd just be like, oh, what's this? And I'd pick it up and I'm move some stuff around, and somebody would be like, Tyler, don't do that. I was like, why? And they would just say continuity, and I'd be like, yeah. Okay, and I just continue to like fuck around with the set, and so eventually somebody had the wherewithal to say, "Oh, he doesn't know what that word means," and they were like, "No, just put it down because it has to stay the same." I said, "Oh, okay, that makes more sense." And so just things like that. And I eventually it became a little much, and I decided I think I said to my mom, I was like, I think I want to play with Legos now. And my mom was like, okay, we're pulling them. And so she pulled me, and then I went to getting back into elementary school was actually kind of a nightmare.
Really?
Into public school. Yeah. Because the principal despised my family specifically for like this reason. And so there was like we had to get lawyers involved to get me back into school, and there were like a whole like he was like this guy was like, you know, I will stand in front of the doors and bar him from. I was like he like threatened to call Child Protective Services. It was a crazy year. But eventually
just like upset that you went into show business, I guess, and just jealous of it, I guess.
Yeah. Who knows? A hateful man. But but yeah, eventually
a hateful dude on Long Island is not, unheard of.
Long Island is a terrible place. Don't ever go there. But it ended up being fine. I went in the second half of fourth grade, which was great. And then I just continued. But eventually I got into, I'd been into musical theater forever.
Yeah.
Same time as like I have, I think I still have all of Phantom of the Opera memorized. It was my first musical. It would not be my last. Yeah, I know.
Wow. That was great. That was, incredible. No notes. Well, one note, continuity. That's the only thing I've got for you.
So I ended up I did an off-Broadway, or I guess an off-Broadway. It was in high school. It was called Feasting on Cardigans, and it was written by Mark Eisenberg, Eisen something. But it was great. I played, this angsty teenage kid that was obsessed with moths, and I was like, so this is just like teenage Dexter with insects. Great.
Incredible.
Yeah, I didn't know what typecasting was either, but yeah.
Sure.
And then I got into classical music for these vocal competitions in New York, and then I got into opera, and so now I sing opera.
Yeah. So you ended up in the Peabody Conservatory, right? That's pretty prestigious.
Yeah. In Baltimore. Yeah, it was great.
From there, NYU Steinhardt, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. Damn.
No, I tried to do a job. I tried to do a job here. Now you're performing at the first opera house I ever went to, the Lyric in Chicago.
You've seen shows at Lyric?
Yes, but I'm afraid to tell both of you about this because I'll reveal the year and you'll say something like, I wasn't born yet. But in 1990, they took a group of us to see Carmen at the Lyric. And now I live in Spain. So good job, educators.
Fantastic. Yeah. Carmen's a great show. It's one of those shows that's like oops all bangers. Like every song is amazing.
I mean, I think roll the dice to take a group of second, third graders.
That's
to
a wild choice, but cool that it happened. But wild choice.
I think if you're going to, Carmen was the good one because they covered it on The Simpsons, Derek.
That's a very good point.
There you go.
And on Hey Arnold, which was the other show that I loved when I was a kid.
That's why I changed my name. Just kidding. I married into Arnold.
So, as an opera person and a Dexter fan, do you have feelings about the opera Dexter episode, Libretto? I think it's called Labretto.
Yeah, it's in my top 5 episodes. Might be my top 2. Might be my second favorite after the first one after mine.
Sure,
but but yeah, no, I loved that episode growing up because I was like, I had never heard opera before. And I was like, what is this? This isn't me. Like, because my only experience with like, quote, I'm air quoting, opera was Phantom of the Opera, which was not an opera. Sure. But I didn't know that at the time. But I was like, this is even better than that. And, And so then once this whole thing happened in the past 2 months, I realized that it's actually the perfect crossover that I should do this.
Yeah. Well, there are other creatives that contributed to this episode. We want to give some flowers. It's all really you, Tyler, but we'd probably be remiss not to talk about John McIntyre. He worked the animation department of Nickelodeon's Rocko's Modern Life, became a major director for Cartoon Network. In addition to 26 episodes of Dexter's Lab, he directed tons of episodes of Johnny Bravo, Powerpuff Girls, and the 2016 Ben 10 reboot.
Can't imagine what it would have to be like to direct an episode like this, but he did good.
Yeah, and also credited for storyboards on this. And I think, now that I've learned more about storyboards, this is an episode that I think really benefits from quality storyboarding. So it makes sense that the director and storyboarder was the same person.
Yeah. The gimmick of this episode, obviously we've basically talked up what it is, but it is sort of the idea that it is like both a fan submitted episode and like an episode written by a child, which both are things that there is history of that happening throughout TV in varying capacities. Like for fan submitted stuff, like that kind of stuff still happens all the time to this day, right? There's plenty of shows, comics, even some movies that'll have contests often that'll allow fans to like submit elements or characters or story concepts. Usually there'll be like stipulations or they'll take them in broad strokes. Like the Doctor Who episode Love and Monsters famously has a monster that a child fan submitted to a contest and they sort of like work that into a story for it. The Godzilla character Jet Jaguar, which is basically kind of like an Ultraman riff, was created by a child who submitted it to a contest. I think it was a child. It was created through a contest. The movie Godzilla vs. Biollante was a contest that a dentist sent a story idea into, and they developed that into the movie. Bob's Burgers pretty recently held a fan art contest where artists could draw the backgrounds and character designs, and over 60 artists were picked. And so the episode Brunch Squatch is the season 8 premiere, and it's made up of like the style changing between scenes between those 60 artists, which is all really cool. It always leads to, I think, really interesting ideas when you do stuff like that. In those cases, all of them were contests, right? So there was like stipulations. There are other times when it's like unsolicited stuff that fans can send in. And usually that's the kind of thing I think where writers will often take a heavier hand in like rewriting, or they just pull they pull the concepts and then write a script based off of it. Star Trek: The Next Generation was very famous for accepting fan written spec scripts. 4 episodes of Next Gen were actually fan written scripts that were submitted, and I think they just lightly rewrote them. 2 others were story ideas that were developed into the episodes. So like that there's precedent for that. There's stuff like Adventure Time created a character based on a drawing someone made, so stuff like that happens all the time. So it's not uncommon to have fan submitted content, but it is, I think, weirder when it's a fan who just sent it unsolicited and it wasn't really like crafted into an episode in the writing sense, right? And that's the other side of it, is that episodes written by a child, which is also happens more often than you would expect in media. But I think it's usually in 2 ways. One way is that something will use ideas generated by children and then turn them into a script, like the PBS series Zoom. All their skits, or a lot of their skits, were based on ideas child viewers sent in. You get something like the 1977 Japanese horror film House, which is a movie that I love deeply. A story by credit on that movie is to the director Nobuhiko Obayashi's 11-year-old daughter. She gets a story by credit on that movie because she's the one who generated most of the ideas that they built the script around.
No, I don't like that, Derek. That's
What?
too scary. Children are so scary.
Yeah, that's. I don't know if either of you have ever seen that movie, but like that movie functions on like surreal horror in a way where it's sometimes almost funny. I mean, I feel like it's akin to almost what this episode is, where it's like, it's so nonsensical that it circles back into feeling brilliant somehow. Like that's kind of how it works. And there's a lot of that in that movie, where it's like no one but a child could come up with something, because a child isn't operating necessarily on the same narrative logic as like we as adults have sort of forced ourselves into. They might know the basics of how narratives work that they picked up on, but like the ideas are going to be absolutely wild because it's kind of unrestrained. There's a Beetlejuice cartoon episode that called The Brides of Funkenstein that were built around ideas that a couple of teenage girls submitted and then just got like Nelvana sent them like $250 and they're sort of like, can we just use our ideas? They're good. And they turned them into an actual episode. And then you have the other side of it where they make it a whole joke that like, isn't it funny that a child wrote this, and sort of play that for comedy. Tiny Toon Adventures, the episode Buster and Babs Go to Hawaiian, that was written by a pair of 13-year-olds. And the characters call attention to that in the episode. Like, this doesn't make sense. Yeah, because a couple of 13-year-olds wrote it. Like, they make it very clear that that's the joke. The webcomic and then Fox cartoon Axe Cop that Nick Offerman has a voice in, the whole joke of that is that they're all things that were essentially a 5-year-old wrote them, and then his older brother just turned them into an actual story and turned an actual script, you know, like the whole joke of it is playing up on that.
But what might make this episode that you wrote, Tyler, come up as sort of unique in all of this is that it was so unfiltered that came through. Because even if we look at like Ren and Stimpy's The Cat That Laid the Golden Hairball, like it was written by a young fan, but so much of the writer's room then tweaked it and edited it and made it like an episode that they had already done. And this feels so unique because it is the raw narrative of a 6.5-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really surprised. So first of all, I'm so happy you mentioned Axe Cop. It's so good.
It's so fun.
It's so fun. But also, yeah, I was surprised that when we watched the episode, all of the and
Mm-hmm.
they and he and I,
Yeah.
yeah, I hadn't watched the episode in like 15 years. I watched it in grad school with a bunch of my friends when they learned that this happened. And so everyone had, like, we had a very strong edible, and we all sat down and watched the episode. And I think that's when I realized, I was like, this is fucking brilliant.
Yeah.
When I was really, really high. And but
absolutely.
Yeah, but I was astounded that they kept all of that in, like all the stutters, I have no idea what's going on, even my mother.
It's kind of what makes it. It's kind of like that's what makes this episode work so well. Because otherwise it would just be like, oh, that's funny that it's just weird. But it's like, no, it's so unfiltered and like, I know that they technically cut stuff, but it feels extremely uncut and raw, which makes it so unique.
And we're going to talk about Gail, so don't lose stories about your mom. Your mom's coming back. But I do want to say that I actually loved how they would animate the like stutters and the uhs and the sentences that didn't finish. It takes this from very good to surreal and exceptional. And I just think that's so impressive. And to go back to an earlier point I made, the restraint that you have showed in your life, because any time that I went on a date and the check came, I would have looked my date in the eyes and said, I made an episode of television for Dexter's Lab when I was 6. And then just look at the bill and be like, pay for dinner.
So the one time that I tried it, I was with a bunch of friends, and we were out in a shopping strip mall, like you do. And there was this sweater that had all of the Cartoon Network cartoons on it. And we were just going in some clothing store. I don't even remember what it was. And so one of my friends, he says he pulls the sweater, and he points to the woman working behind the cashier desk, and he's like, she's really cute. You should tell her that you did an episode of this. And so I was like, I never do this, dude. And he's like, no, it'll be great. And so I go up to her and I say, hey, and I point to Dexter. I said, hey, I made an episode of this show. And I saw her smile slowly invert into a frown.
Oh no. Oh no.
And I said, okay, yeah, all right, I'm never doing this again. And I just put the sweater down and I left.
Oh my God.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. It would have worked on me.
Awesome.
I think that the success rate is higher than your anecdotal experience, but that is incredible. I am obsessed with that. It's also like you're kind of like not new to telling this story, but like you have been on the internet willing to tell this story. And it was kind of surprising to me as I was looking you up that like you even hosted an AMA on the Dexter's Lab subreddit, and like one person showed up, and I was like, this is so sad. Like this is like, people love this stuff.
Yeah.
Where are they?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of I have always wondered. I just never did the digging that David did. But like, because this is always an episode that has stuck with me for a long time, because it is just sort of like, how the fuck did this happen? And like, what happens to the person that was part of this, like I think it's incredibly fascinating, but it is interesting. I think I do think it's one of those things where like it's not a thing that can happen in the same way anymore these days, because I feel like it's so much easier. Kids go viral whether they want to or not all the time. Yeah. It's so much easier to track people down. And I feel like people are more pressured to be like, well, I got to turn this into my career now, and I got to be a TikTok influencer. And I do feel like this happened in the right point of time where like, if you wanted to just go back to anonymity, you could. And a lot of people aren't necessarily seeking out to like dox the child or find their like old tweets to cancel them over or something, like, yeah. Which I think that's sort of interesting to compare it to like virality of today. I feel like,
yeah. That's absolutely true, Derek. Cause like you just missed the cutoff for like Jamie Loftus's 16th minute of fame. Like, because you're not an internet, you weren't an internet meme. You were a Cartoon Network meme before we even knew what that was.
Yeah.
Well, then I needed you to be here, Tyler. So thank you again so much for accepting this, because in no point of time in my gimmicks history as co-host have I run into so much misinformation about a series. Your story is mistold by so many people. It is mistold on the fan wiki. It is mistold even in contemporary articles at the time. And so you are going to help set us straight.
All right. Well, first of all,
we're giving you work now, basically, is what he's saying.
Work.
No problem. No problem. First of all, I'm alive. So I'm not dead. I didn't die. I'm still here.
Yeah, we way past the 5 questions I'm allowed to ask if we'd raise the dead on this one. We've asked you way too many. That was a good D&D joke for anyone who was looking for the origin of that.
That was great. I appreciate that.
So my first thing was the contest of this all, because this comes up a lot when this is talked about, like, oh, this kid entered a contest or his mom entered the contest for him. But I think already from sharing the story, there was no contest that was part of this.
No, not at all. Not at all. And it's so strange to me when I see people comment, I remember this contest. Oh, I entered this contest. I'm like, what are you doing?
Do not.
Like that, There was no contest.
Yeah. Berenstein Bears. Like, you have psyoped yourself into thinking that there was something that was not.
Truly.
So funny.
Even Truly. In a contemporary article written in June 1998 by Virginia Robertson from a column series, The Way Kids Are, she wrote that Tyler's mom called Tartakovsky to hear Tyler's impression, and that led to the tape being made. I was obsessed with this article because I love the idea of your mom picking up the phone and being like, I'm just going to call the creator of this series and let him hear my child. And I think Gail is an advocate for you, but I don't think she was a helicopter mom.
No. Definitely Long Island Jewish mother. Like, definitely, like, my son, blah, 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 blah. You should, that's more my grandmother was like, you should listen to my grandson. He's so talented. He's so wonderful. He's so smart. But, yeah.
I love this because I will get to this in just a second. Great voice work on your grandmother just then. Love that. You were in a lot of news, a lot of local news in Long Island, even some that hit the city. Lots of national media, though. You had an interview in USA Today, People, Washington Post, Variety. What's that like at 7?
So I'm such a smooth brain. I couldn't even understand. I just kept thinking, like, all of these people are coming into our house and they're all asking me the same questions. And, I just remember being like, at one point some guy asked, he was like, so like, what's the show about? And I was like, it's about Dexter. And, and I was like, all right, I should elaborate.
That
And I was like,
rules.
okay, yeah.
No, that rules. That
That's
I
so
wish
funny.
that had made it to print. It's about Dexter. Next question. That's what it's about.
Read the title.
It's just incredible. In another review, the Washington Post article by Scott Moore, this was the one where I think I got the most juice for the squeeze on this one. This is what confirmed that the tape was in fact unsolicited, which you have now affirmed for all of us. In the article, Scott writes that you were also working on a sci-fi spoof called the Dex Files. Any memory of what that was? Because I am very interested.
That was I believe that was one of the things on the tape that didn't get used.
Okay.
So I remember wow, you just unlocked a core memory. Yeah, I remember. So I had watched like 2 episodes of the X-Files as a child. So like not,
Sure.
the best
Too young.
move.
Too
but,
young.
I remember it was Muldex and Numbskully, I think, were the two.
My God.
And it was Dexter
Obsessed.
and Dee Dee in a parody of the X-Files.
Why didn't they use this? Like, it feels so easy. It was the right time for that, too. That was like the height of its popularity.
Yeah.
Rights, maybe? I don't know. That's wild, because that's what we would be interviewing you about right now if that had made it to air, because we are huge X-Files fans, as I think a lot of people are. It was a great show.
Fantastic.
But Derek, you're right. That it was the time for Mulder and Scully to show up places, and Dexter's Lab would have been a great place for it.
Yeah, that's so weird.
This article is also where you said you had a pretty good Jewish grandfather voice, which now seems on point since you did your grandma. Yep. It's great because I also watched a video review of all of this from July, and they were like, "Oh, I couldn't find this guy. Should have tried harder." And it would have been great to hear his Jewish grandfather voice. Like, look, listen, you got it. It's in the bag. You've got them all. You still have amazing voice talent, which I guess probably serves you well as an opera performer, right?
I think so. Yeah. Though, I mean, mostly so opera. I mean, I don't ever get to chance it. Honestly, it serves me the best playing Dungeons and Dragons, which is like
Yeah.
basically the only thing I do outside of opera now.
Incredible.
But yeah,
You're like, can we encounter an old Jewish man? Because I've got it in the pocket. Like, it would be really great if we could roll into that.
Absolutely. There's definitely some wizard in a tower somewhere that is definitely, he's got the scrolls. He's ready.
Well, and the article talked a little bit about the compensation that you received, including a couple boxes of Dexter's Lab paraphernalia, which you were forced to share with your sister, Kelsey.
Oh, no.
Is this an appropriate time for me to ask about Kelsey? And is she a Dee Dee in your life? Was she a Dee Dee in your life? Is she a Dee Dee in your life? Where's Kelsey fall on that spectrum?
Kelsey has always been so smart. She's the smart one. I'm the other one.
Great.
The free
Yeah.
spirit.
Yeah, she truly. No, Kelsey is wonderful. She's always been wonderful. She and I, of course, have butted heads in the past. But she is terrifyingly brilliant, and she has the sharpest wit. I never want to get into an argument with her because I lose every time. Like within the first, like the 3D chess model where the guy's head is exploding, that's Kelsey. She's brilliant. She's a black cat personified. She's excellent. But no, she's never destroyed anything of mine. No, she's always been very supportive.
That's kind of incredible, because then she's sort of the Dexter and you're sort of the Dee Dee. And
For sure.
I love that.
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And then there's your mom, Gail Lee, described that your negotiations for the rights as fair, but also quoted in the article saying Tyler had to sign 1 million forms, and while his arm started hurting, he said he couldn't sign anymore, and I told him if he wanted a Nintendo 64, he better keep signing. Queen. Just... I love your mom. I just love her.
Yeah, no, she's the greatest mother I could ask for. Yeah, she and my dad are wonderful. They're the best people I know.
You really were
truly.
just living in Dexter's Lab, truly and honestly. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
I,
Yeah,
I don't need to meet your mom. She wears yellow gloves. Your dad has his pants up too high. It's perfect for me.
Yeah. So my parents. So my mother, she has purple hair now.
Ooh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Gail.
She was an ice hockey goalie in a women's league.
I did see that. I did find your mom's
Yeah.
YouTube. I'm sorry, Gail.
Oh my god.
Yep, she
that
posts
rules.
a lot about her hockey work and her pride in her son being an opera performer.
Yeah,
Aw,
that's
oh my God.
and my father is a Korean immigrant. He moved here when he was 3. He's awesome, just the sweetest
That's
guy. Yeah, they love each other very much, and I'm just wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful people. They have several
beautiful.
dogs, several chickens now.
Oh wow. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The chickens. Yeah. Your mom also said that the whole thing was recorded on a quote Radio Shack $10 recorder. So I guess in my heart of hearts I had hoped that this was a Talkboy situation. I really did, but I'm actually. It is also really fascinating to know that this was kind of like you really just grabbed the thing that could record tapes and ran into the bathroom.
Yeah, it was the first thing that she could find. I guess she just said, "Here, use this. Just do it. Do your thing." And I guess she sat outside of the bathroom when I was recording it, and she'd say, "All right, now, dude, do this voice." And then they just animated this head coming out of the corner. And I didn't realize it until I watched it like 15 years ago, I guess, that their eyes, the other character's eyes, like trail to her.
Yeah, they noticed.
Yeah,
that.
she's there. Oh, she's there. Yeah.
Oh my god.
She's that's how mothers are. They're just always there. You can't get away from them. Well, this one starts off with the familiar title sequence that I think watching back was such a delight and dream. And then we go straight into this segment. The segment starts by Tyler introducing who he is. I'm 6 or 6.5. And then we get the essentially cold open of the story. Next door to Dexter is his arch nemesis Mandark and Mandark's brother Computress. Computress is upset because Mandark is constantly destroying the laboratory and Computress has to fix it all by himself. And I know that this was stream of consciousness and I know that the tape was edited, but it is impressive that they were able to edit this into a cold open I would see on any other segment of Dexter's Lab.
Yeah, actually, I have a few. I have a few things that a few questions. First of all, well, this isn't a question. I do think it's kind of funny that like the first thing before anything happens, it is literally just like your name written and narrated by, and then you. Like that's how they open the episode, so they make it very clear this is going to be different, and then draw the characters into it, which I think is clever. But my question is, with Computress, the character you conceived, was the drawing that you sent into them, did it have Computress in it? Like, is the design that they did based on what you came up with for that character?
So the design that they did was like a lot better. I think mine was just basically a box with like, actually, I don't even know if I made, Computress wasn't in the drawing.
Ooh, so they had free domain to do whatever they wanted.
In my mind, Computress was a human, and they made him an actual computer
With legs and arms.
with
Yeah,
legs and
it's-
arms. Also, Computress was female. Oh no, that's not true. That's not true. I think before I made the record, because Computress was a character in like my head that I had been like brewing for like about a year, and at first Computress was female, and then
wow.
eventually I was like brother, and but yeah, that was Computress ended up being a robot, which was pretty nuts. I was like,
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
huh, all right, yeah.
They made it even weirder, which I think good on them for that. Yeah. My other question, obviously, it's they show it like their sort of interpretation like of a child's drawing of you, and then later your mom. Do you know, were they based, like, did they have a photo or anything of you, or did they just make up what they think you might have looked like when they drew that? It's very simple, so like it could look like any kid really, but I don't know if that was like if they were intentionally basing it on anything that you know of.
I think they did know what we looked like, because I back then I had a little mushroom bowl and Yeah, and
I love it.
they got the hair really. Yeah, I think they had some still images of us that we might have sent in, or I think once
That's
they
fun.
contacted us that they wanted to do it, they said, tell us, show us what you look like so we can animate you well.
That
But
makes
yeah,
sense. Yeah.
And again, the 90s of all of this, even when you were talking about like going to audition and things, and even the press that you would do with this, people coming to your house, this is all so pre-internet that like if they did want a Polaroid of you all, your mom would have to take it and then like go over to the post office, which probably gave her something to complain about for 90 minutes, and then send it back to LA. And then they would be like, oh, good. Now we have the picture of this woman that we can put in the corner for like a half a second. Like it just adds so much texture and 90s to this whole thing that is delicious.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we get into the story of this where Computress has now teamed up with Dexter.
And now, Computress and Dexter teamed up. It's to shrink Mandark's head into nothing with the shrinking ray, and to get Dee Dee to have no spirit instead of a free spirit.
They scheme to get Mandark by, of course, shrinking his head, a very normal thing to do. Although shrink rays are a thing in Dexter's lab all the time. So, like, totally makes sense where that idea would come from. And then I remember watching this as a kid and just being like, what the fuck is this? We'll also use the shrink ray to, of course, get Dee Dee to have no spirit instead of a free spirit. And then that's not commented on ever again.
Tyler, answer for your crimes. Answer for your crimes against Dee Dee.
okay. So in my defense, I didn't even know what I was talking about. I think the joke went over my head when I was saying it. I remember. Okay, so here's where it came from. So there was some episode of Dexter's Lab that I guess had aired recently where Dexter says like, "Oh, you're a free spirit, so go ahead." And I was like, "No spirit." Yeah. There's something there. I didn't know what it was, but I was like, I think there's something there. Put it in the tape. And so, I had no idea what I was talking about. I didn't know that it actually made sense. I think I was just like, just talking.
Well, I think that's what makes the sort of art of this episode so cool is that like you do have adults who are just like trying to translate and interpret this into something that would make some level of sense on screen. And so they do actually depict what it would look like if they zapped Dee Dee with a ray to make her have no spirit. She would just be like a zombie, I guess, which like does make sense, but then ends up elevating the joke to make it way darker than you as a kid would have ever intended it to be, which it's just, I think it's just so genius about this.
And because it's your voice, it's your 6.5-year-old voice, it sells it so much better. Because that is, and we joked about your sister Kelsey, but like that is what a brother would say of his sister. Like, I just want to take you and remove who you are. Like that's just, it's so well conceived and realized and baked into the Dexter character that it was my laugh out loud of this episode. I mean, there's a lot to love here, but just the like cheerful way that it is delivered and presented and animated, I screamed with delight. I love this so much, Tyler.
Thank you.
Just a dream.
I also love that they just kind of scrapped it. And just never addressed it again.
Yeah.
All got right with Dee Dee in the end. You can't keep Dee Dee down. So she found a way around this.
Yeah.
She's an unstoppable force for sure.
Well, we get a little bit of Dee Dee in the next sequence because we get this nice little mirrored part of the story where Computress is forging a letter under Mandark's name to send to Dee Dee.
And Computress wrote the love letter to Dee Dee that was signed from Mandark. And the letter said that I'll be in Dexter's lab and I love you.
And Dexter forges a similar letter, but this one to Mandark from Dee Dee, promising Mandark a kiss if he comes to the lab. Mandark gets his letter and is infatuated. Dee Dee gets hers and is not.
Yeah. I think this is the thing I noticed that when I was watching it this last time that like I think it's really smart that they do, in the animation is like there are a lot of moments of like silence in this when that's where they sort of try to add some level of like continuity or something to it to make it like a little more sense. Cause they do have like an extended sequence of Mandark running over to the house and it's just silence except for the static from the recorder that is always ever present, which I think is a very smart move because then it's sort of like you always like you get the continuity of the sound, but also like you always get the sense that it's like this is still just sort of part of the story being narrated. And then of course the music that they orchestrate for it too, which definitely adds to it. But then they kind of like almost like fix a continuity error because Dee Dee is supposed to get a letter as part of the plan, but then that goes nowhere. They don't even mention that she got a letter ever again. So they intentionally edit a sequence that is not narrated where it's Dee Dee noticing the letter and throwing it away, which like I remember watching it. It's sort of like, oh yeah, that's just part of the story. But then it's like, if you have just the actual narration, it's just because the kid who was telling it stream of consciousness just forgot about that part is all.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. So the letter, it's funny. When he's writing the letter and he's just trying to figure it out, the audience is actually seeing me figure out kind of what I'm about to say. It really was complete stream of consciousness. Like the whole thing from start to finish, except for the character of Computress, was I'm making this up right now.
Yeah. Well, and the way that you end up saying I will kiss you, because it is so formulated and it's like we are watching a character reason out what they are saying to trick someone to come over to do something. And this is like an established characterization of Mandark. And it's well conceived and delivered in that way. And it just makes me even more impressed of your storytelling acumen, even knowing that there were 20 extra minutes of it that didn't make the cut. This is the first time we get and Dexter said and then just there's nothing delivered on it, and so every one of these is perfect. Every one of these is beautiful.
So good. So good.
Yeah, a lot of it was I said, oh yeah, and then Dexter, all right, and just moving on.
Brilliant. Yeah. And then we get their actual scheme where the scheme is working. Mandark shows up to Dexter's lab. They shrink his head, but then something goes wrong because Computress leans on the lever, and instead of shrinking it, they actually grow Mandark's head.
And it was on top of the world. It was bigger than the world. Actually, it was as big as the world, and the world sucked into, and the world was shaped like Mandark's head.
And then it's bigger than the world, or actually no, it's as big as the world. And then the world became sucked into Mandark's head. No, the world became Mandark's head, and the world was shaped like Mandark's head, which is that's stuck with me my entire life, like since I've watched that. Just like the back and forth, because that's how fucking it works when you're trying to come up with a story as a kid and tell it. It's just like, you're like, this, well, no, not that. Well, this, well, no, not that. Well, this. Like, I fucking love it. And I just love that they keep all of that in.
Yeah. I can't say that I remembered saying it, but I know I said it. But it just, I think that's one of the reasons I like Axe Cop so much, is that I think I viscerally relate to that child.
Yes.
But I just, the constant back and forth with like, oh, no. What if, and then what if like I hadn't the Trey Parker, like a thing where he's addressing the crowd of people that says, you can never just say, and then it has to be because of, or, but
right.
Completely out the window. It's just always and then and then and then and then.
And then. Yeah.
Well, and like I actually our downstairs neighbors have a 7-year-old. We just took him out, not just him out to dinner. That would be weird. We just went out to dinner with them and their 7-year-old. And this is exactly how he told his stories. He would be like, I saw a lizard and it was as big as my finger. No, it was as big as my hand. No, it was as big as my whole body. And I was like, this is going to be Godzilla by the time dinner gets done. And that's it. It was so cool that I had just watched this in preparation of the podcast. And I was like, this is kind of how kids tell stories, but even at this level, maybe not understanding how to like narratively make construction, the stakes need to raise.
Yeah.
And that's what we're hearing in 6.5-year-old Tyler's narration here is I need to raise the stakes. And what's bigger than the world? Well, it's him turning into the world or him ruling the world. Like it delivers on what stories need to deliver on, which is probably why it caught everyone's attention. And part of why it got made.
Yeah, for sure.
Gail shows up in the scene because when you say, I believe it's the line, and he becomes the world, she just can't help herself and chuckles, and we get it on the recording. And this is where Mandark's eyes shoot to the lower right-hand corner because her head just pops up.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So
was that a surprise for her watching it? Do you remember if that was something that she was like, oh my God, I'm there?
Oh yeah, yeah. She I heard the first time it popped up, and I think both my grandparents were like, "Gail," and they just like,
incredible. Love that.
Yeah, it was incredible, and I loved that. With of all the creators to send this to, the truly like the guy that would have a completely silent episode, an episode
Yes.
that's based on like Gundam, or like all of these like homages and like the Star Trek, D&D, like all of these these avant-garde, unheard of thought processes for making an episode. Of course you'd have something from a child, and then of course you'd have the mother's head, like this eldritch creature, come up from the corner, and everyone just kind of like look and then just write it off. All right, we're going to continue with the plot. Like,
yeah,
so cool.
You're so right, because if this was kind of the show to do it, because even among the Cartoon Network shows that were similar to this, like if you sent this into Johnny Bravo or Ed, Edd and Eddy or Powerpuff Girls, it's possible, but it's very, very unlikely. And if they did do it, it would not be in the way this is done. Like Andy was very into experimental stuff and throw it in things and like random humor, but not like 2010s random humor,
Right,
but like
right.
a really particular, like you said, like kind of avant-garde humor. Like one of my favorite anecdotes is I forget the title of the episode, but it's like the one where they go to Chubby Cheese and there's like a weird bit where after the animatronic performance ends, like the audience members just like fly into the sky for no reason. And apparently it was just an animation error on like, I think in, when they're animating, I think in like the Korean studios or something, they just misunderstood the audience takes off was in the script and they just meant the audience leaves, but they thought it meant take off like Superman or like a plane. So they animated the audience flying away. But then Genny and the staff are sort of like, this is so fucking weird and funny that we just have to keep it in.
Have to use it.
Like,
Yeah, gotta use
they
it.
would do stuff like that. And a lot of other Cartoon Network shows wouldn't do stuff like that,
So
Brilliant.
cool. We find out that Computress was the one responsible for the error, having set the shrink ray to grow instead of shrink, and Dexter derides his new ally in the most Dexter way possible.
And Computress made the shrinking ray, and he accidentally put it on grow. And Dexter said, "You are stupid because you made the shrinking ray be on grow." And then Dexter said, "You are stupid. You are stupid. And don't forget, you are stupid."
Mandark's voice.
And then Mandark said, "Ah ha ha, now I rule the world. Ah ha ha."
Yeah.
This is you gave a little bit to us at the beginning. It's kind of like the iconic line from not only this episode, but maybe like I think a lot of people who remember watching Dexter's Lab remember this line, but maybe don't even remember that this is where it came from, that it's actually you saying it.
So fun. So fun fact, I believe that he actually said something like a derivation of it in a previous episode that I had
Okay.
seen. And I just remember like he said it was like, I don't know, because I mean he says it to Dee Dee at some point, and he's like,
Sure.
like you're stupid, and like, and let's not forget you are so stupid, and I remember like I think I took that and I changed it into my own thing. I don't think he says it three times, but I remember in my mind it was it had like the bang animation behind it, and he's just like going back and forth, and that's basically what ended up happening in the episode. But yeah, I think I would say it to my family all the time.
Yeah.
And when I was going in to record, my mother was like, "You have to say that. I don't care how many times, but like you should probably put that in there."
Wow. She just keeps getting better. I don't know what to say. I couldn't think of Gail's stock going any higher, but here we are. It's a bull market for Gail. Just incredible. It is kind of endlessly quotable, and I think probably why it's a memory that a lot of people have of this, because I did a lot of reading about people's reactions to this episode and their memories of it. And I think that truly it's about hearing it and thinking, I could say this to my friend's family and annoy them or get my point across. It is that 1, 2, 3 beat. So even now you've got musicality in your life, that you've set up a joke structure very well and very musically. That I think I would repeat ad nauseum if I had watched this when I was the right age to be seeing this. Yeah. Like, I think that it would have become part of my parlance.
Follows the rules of threes in comedy too. Yeah, pretty spot on.
You're stupid. You're stupid. And don't forget, you're thinking there's another thing. Nope. It's just that you're stupid. Like, that is
brilliant. It is brilliant. The more you break it down, actually.
It's a 30 Rock joke, truly. It should have come out of Jenna Maroney's mouth. Like, just truly.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That's another core memory unlocked. So thanks for that.
Well, with a little help from your mom, we learned that Mandark has taken over the world, because that's when she pops in as sort of like to Mandark's voice, which is good. It's another good one because the laugh is good. It's the Mandark's iconic laugh, obviously.
Once I tried to get the top secret plans, and I said, "Aha! These are the top secret plans. Ha 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 ha! And now I rule the world. Ha 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 ha!" And then Dexter said,
but not only is he taking the world, he's also got his hands on the top secret plans.
This is great. This is great.
So that was actually from I guess a reference to the episode that I just seen before I recorded. Right. So I remember in the Mach 5 episode, he was trying to get the secret plans to Dexter's car.
There you go.
And it was like, I remember like stumbling over it even when I was like doing it. I was like, oh yeah, these are the top secret plans. And I was so that was, I guess, just kind of like an inside joke to myself.
That's great. That's amazing.
I put it.
But like, so much credit to McIntyre, because it looks like the secret plans that you would get when you had completed a level of a Super Nintendo video game at the time. Like, you got them. Good job. And like, you don't need to know what they are. It doesn't matter. It's a MacGuffin for all intents and purposes. And now you've got it. Good job, Mandark. I guess we shouldn't be rooting for him, but here we are. I mean, we have to root for him because you're so good as Mandark. Did you have like affinity for Mandark, or did you just have the voice so down?
So I guess a little bit of a tangent. So when I think from when I was like a baby, I was good at impressions. I had a little toy that was like, 4 different farm animals. And, you'd press a button and the cow goes, and then it'd play a cow sound, play a pig sound, whatever. And I remember my parents would tell me this, that I would press it and like make the sound, and I would press it and like just keep adjusting and adjusting and adjusting until I would get the sound. This is when I was like, I don't know, 2. And so at one point, my father would tell me this story. He said, yeah. And so we were just sitting in bed, and it was 6 a.m, and the toy broke. It just kept playing the cow sound over and over and over and over again. And then I went into your room, and it was you, and you were just doing the cow sound.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And so,
thank goodness you were Jewish and not Catholic, because there would have been an exorcism happening that night in the room.
Jesus.
Truly and honestly.
Yeah. So
wow, Tyler, you were doomed to be a musician. Like, you just like, this is I mean, Listen,
Doomed.
I worked in child development. I worked in child protection. So of course I had to study how children come up to figure out like what's wrong with them later. And like this is actually the sort of thing that you look for in creative children in like infancy is shit like replicating noises correctly. Like you really, I don't believe in fate, but I think you were fated to do music.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I like to think so. There's like, pros and cons stuff. So I at a younger age, I was diagnosed with ADHD and Tourette's. And so I always like to think that that's like there was a show called Alphas a long time ago on the Sci-Fi Channel, and there's
I
like
Alphas.
people with superpowers that also have a downside, and I'm always like, okay, all right, that's it,
This is you.
They call me like the impressionist or something, and that's my downside.
Yeah.
Well, things are looking really bad with Mandark taking over the world, but then Dexter says, but it's nothing again. And again, this pays off so well. It just the look on Dexter, the animated look on Dexter's face, almost accusing you, the viewer, of not having said something. Like it's almost like he's reaching out to you, Tyler, and being like, "Why didn't you give me something to say, you jerk?"
It's good. And then Computress puts the shrink ray on Grow again.
And then Computress put it accidentally on Grow again, and then Mandark's head grew more. Actually, it was so big it couldn't fit in the universe, and then his head exploded. And then Dexter said,
Makes Mandark so big that it can't fit in the entire universe. And then Dexter said,
Oh no.
I do wonder. I mean, I'm sure you can't remember the specifics or anything. Like I wonder if they edited to have that to repeat the "and Dexter said" thing a couple of times just to return to it. But I would believe it either way. I would also believe it if that was just exactly how it was on the tape too, because it's just so funny that becomes a running gag that Dexter just can't say anything.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that it was all just I'm pretty sure that of all the things, they just took it from start to finish and were just
incredible.
like, this is that. Because there were definitely a bunch of times where I was like, yeah, and then Dexter said, and I would just one of my early memories, I just remember like sitting and looking at the rug on the bathroom and being like, I have nothing to say.
Wow.
Oh, man.
Yes. Oh, incredible. Well, Mandark's head explodes and millions of Mandark's heads fall all over the world. As Mandark heads cover the earth, Dexter tells Computress this is all his fault and that he is stupid. And then we get a nice little read from you that was the end.
Incredible. The image of the little Mandark's heads like raining out of the sky is so freaky. Like they really went hard on the surreality of that. It's like and the pause, like when Dexter's in the middle of like ranting at Computress, and then there's like, I'm assuming that you just like forgot what you were saying for a second, so they animate him catching one of Mandark's heads, being confused and grossed out, and then continuing what he was going to say. It's so well done. It's so well done.
Oh, it's so good.
and when his head exploded, there were millions of Mandark's heads all over the world. And Dexter said, "You are stupid. I didn't want a lot of Mandark's head, and that's why you are stupid. You are stupid. And don't forget, you are stupid." The end.
It's brilliant choices from the animating and the storyboard. I mean, just I can't believe that they were really able to make everything make sense, which was incredible.
Yeah. Well, I think it helped too that, like, I don't know if I don't know if we mentioned this already, but like the look of the episode, it is stylized. Like the backgrounds, they make it look like crayon drawings from a child. The character designs are a little bit looser and a little bit like sketchier and don't like look a little more childlike, you know? And I think it helps too, because they do that. It means that I feel like it almost tricks your brain into being more willing to like buy into the weirdness of it too, because it feels more like because they go so hard on like a kid did this and it doesn't have to really make sense. And then and they're watching it sort of like, yeah, this makes sense. This is totally, of course the heads will be raining down. That seems logical.
Yeah.
And then the music choice that they used, for the whole episode was
Yeah.
so different from the
Yeah.
rest of the series. It's
Yeah.
incredible. The wah, wah, that kind of
Mhm.
Yeah.
vibe for the entire episode. I remember even as a child, I was like, wow, that was really cool. They used different music for the whole episode. I was really impressed.
Yeah. Yeah,
But-
like the tinkly piano when the Mandark's heads are raining down, I think really adds to the weird effect of that too. Yeah, it's really really well done.
But I found it actually pretty low on sound effects, really relying on Tyler to be the sound effect for the most part. Like if something would slam or kick, it really was just hitting the consonants that you were giving in the narration.
That's true.
Rather than, I think particularly of Mandark stomping on the earth. It's really just Tyler when you could have added so much more to that. And I think that was a really smart choice because I think that it keeps this in wacky, fun 6.5-year-old narration town rather than being like, we're going to make this like a usual episode.
Totally.
Wow. Well, Tyler, what other core memories have we unlocked from this experience? Or like I guess my like final question for you is like, what role does Dexter's Lab play for you today?
I mean, especially now, it's fucking huge. The So just remembering that, because I remember when we were going in for auditions and we were doing all these things, and I remember sitting on the train and we'd have like the paper or whatever. Obviously, I didn't read the paper when I was like 9 or 7, but
Yeah.
there would be these articles about like child stars who were actually like assholes, and and I remember like looking at that and like I was like, what's that? My mother would summarize the article and I was like, I will never do that. And I'm trying not to,
Yeah.
But I remember like, and hearing stories from like my friends, because you hear stories about like, people being like, oh, going up to someone for their autograph and the person's like, get away from me. What are you doing? Like, be gone, but like, and I remember making a conscious choice. I was like, I will never be an asshole. Like I'll never do that, to people.
Yeah.
And that's, and to be able to be in a situation where that is the case, where I can say, okay, somebody is like coming up to me because of something that I did that made them happy. Why would I inhibit that joy? And so that's something that has started from that episode and from the effects of that episode that has really kind of guided a lot of my life, in that I try and promote that sense of joy, especially with like nostalgia from the 90s. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But I try and like encourage people to, like I've always said, like if someone comes up to me for basically anything, I'll be like, yeah, what is it? Come on. So that's I think, thanks. That's probably one of the biggest things that I've gotten as far as like a lifestyle choice, is to like kind of promote joy, promote enjoyment.
Oh, I love that so much. That is such a beautiful thing to get from an experience like this, especially with how like cursed show business can be depending on the space that you're in and who you are and who you're working with. It's really nice to actually like I feel like that just speaks to like art in general, being able to sort of generate that from that. And it's like doing it less for just sort of like the fame of it all and more for just like having contributed a piece of art out into the world that people have gotten something out of, like I remember watching this when I was a little kid, and you see this, and I think it was always one of my favorites because it's sort of like, oh, I could do that. Like that seems really cool. And that's the most inspirational thing I think you can feel when you're a child, is that like, I could do something cool like that too, So I love that you got that from it. And I think you put something very, very cool out into the world at a young age and have continued to do that, it seems like, throughout your life, which is really, really awesome.
Yeah. Tyler, we have a lot of folks who listen to the podcast who are interested in becoming creators, or they want to break into Hollywood. They want to become writers or directors or animators, things like that. And I think 7-year-old Tyler said it best when you were asked if you had any advice for kids who have creative ideas. You said, it could happen. If you want to, you can make a character, just send it in. And it's sort of this is this beautiful, it's innocent, but it's also very wise to say, if you want to make art, just make art. Like just make it. And that's how you become better. And that's how you become the artist that the world needs you to be.
Thanks. Yeah, I believe I can't believe I said that. That was really cool.
Yeah, you really peaked there with the advice. I think it's probably been.
I like to
downhill
tell
from
people I peaked at 6, and then I'm just like kind of coasting.
That's fair.
Oh,
Well,
incredible.
Tyler, this has been a true dream and delight. I couldn't have imagined talking about this episode without you. So thank you so very much. And for listeners, I need everyone to know that I reached out to Tyler yesterday and he made this happen. Truly, it's a gimmicks miracle here. We should celebrate it in April because that's when you do Christmas things. Tyler, where, if you would like to, where can folks find you online? And what do you have going on that folks might want to engage with the art that you're continuing to make for the world?
Yeah. Well, firstly, thank you for having me on. Like, I'm honored. I'm super honored and humbled that you asked me to do this at all. Like, that's really, really nice. And I really appreciate you talking to me about this. So what am I doing now? So I'm a full-time opera singer at the Lyric Opera of Chicago. So if you like opera, or even if you don't like opera, we're doing some good operas this year. So like, you should come see it. Maybe you'll move to Spain and, live your dreams.
And now I can't go to operas because all the subtitles are in Spanish. It's
rough.
Sort of didn't think this through, truly.
So if you're in the Midwest or in the Chicago area, or if you like traveling to Chicago and actually seeing some really good stuff, reach out to me on Instagram and I'll give you a whole set list of recommendations. So besides that, I'm actually about to come out with 2 different Dungeons and Dragons live content things. Live plays. Okay. Thank you. Whew. One of them is called Predicting Chaos. And that is going to be coming out. We actually have our session 0 tonight, where we're going to talk about it. It's with a bunch of people that stream on Twitch. I've guested on Twitch streams over the pandemic as a dungeon master. And so we'll be getting a bunch of streamers together for like a campaign that we will eventually turn into like several campaigns and get guest DMs and things like that. But it's going to be Predicting Chaos. I think we have a Twitter.
Yeah.
And and then there's another one that's coming out that's going to be live with people at the table. It's called That Time We Got Reincarnated as a D&D Podcast, or TTW.
A+.
So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for. I'll be promoting all of it on my Instagram when we have like graphics and stuff. But and then my Instagram is at Tyler Lee Tenor. I'm pretty sure.
I love it.
At Tyler Lee Tenor.
It's great.
It's a 2-month-old account. It's real. I promise.
Yeah, I will say Instagram was like, "Are you sure you want to message this person? They have a new account." And I was like, "Yes, I am sure I want to message this person."
That's so funny.
But yeah, that's I believe that's everything that I've got coming up.
Yeah, we'll put all the links for those in the show notes for this episode so you can check them out and continue to follow the great work of Tyler. Tyler, thank you so much for spending time with Derek and I.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, if you want to find David and I, if you want to find me specifically, you can find me most places at Derek B. Gale. I have a few other podcasts I do with my friend Doug. I do Walloping Web Snappers, which is a Spider-Man podcast where we do deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made. And with Doug, I also do Screonk, a Godzilla movie marathon, where we're going through Godzilla's filmography. And then with my friend Tommy, I have Lee Carvalho's Potting Challenge, where we're looking at the Simpsons tie-in video games chronologically, as well as video game history and Simpsons history and pop culture history. What about you, David?
Yeah, if you want me raw and unfiltered, wow, what a choice. But you can find me online almost anywhere as Dmuma. That's DMUMA on Instagram. There's a 22 at the end for Twitter. I do a couple other podcasts as well. I have one called Are You My Mother, where we cover mothers in media. Maybe one day we'll just do one dedicated to Gail because she truly seems like Mom of the Year.
Honestly, she would come on for an interview.
I love that. The media you were featured in is a minute long, so a lot to draw from there. I also am being drawn into horror, sometimes against my will, but I'm having a lot of fun with it with my friends Marilee and Tyler on our podcast Fear Coded, where we take a single entry in the horror genre and talk about just how queer it all is. So check out Fear Coded and Are You My Mother wherever you get your podcasts. Gimmicks, of course, is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you're looking for other queer media podcasts, you can check out the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com.
If you want to support this show by giving us a little tip, you can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/gimmickspod. And you can also follow this podcast at gimmickspod on Twitter and Instagram, and email us your questions, feedback, and corrections to gimmickspodcast@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe on all your podcast platforms. And until next time, friends, keep being weird.
Enter at your own peril, past a bolted door where impossible things may happen that the world's never seen before.
In Dexter's laboratory lives the smartest boy you've ever seen. But Dee blows his experiments to smithereens. There is gloom and doom while things go boom.